On Iran, just a limited deal, just for a longer ceasefire?
We would have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way, but I'd like to see few people killed. I just wonder whether or not they have the good of the people, because some of the things they're doing to me means they don't have the good of the people, and they have to have the good of the people. There's a lot of anger now in Iran because people are living so badly. There's a lot of foment that we haven't seen before so much, and we'll see what happens.
President Trump speaking about not being in a hurry to take care of business there in Iran. It seems as though he's waiting, and there's, of course, a lot of negotiating that seems to be going on back and forth, but there's also a lot of discussion about, do we need to go finish the job? And if we haven't finished the job yet, what does that look like? Let's speak to Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, co-chair of American Security at America First Policy Institute, also former assistant to the president and special presidential envoy for Ukraine. General, thank you for being with us today. It's a pleasure to have you back.
Thanks, Annie. Good to be with you again.
So let me talk to you about finishing the job. Is the job done in Iran, and now we just need to figure out how to define peace?
Well, no, not really. Look, to start with, in flatline it is, President Trump has done something no other president has done, 8 previous presidents before him, is to take decisive action against Iran. But look, what we're going to have to do is understand it from their perspective, what they're doing, and then treat it differently. You know, when they came up with a plan so your listeners understand this, they called it the Mosaic Defense. That's basically decentralization of the Revolutionary Guards, who runs Iran with the supreme leader. It's not their army, the Revolutionary Guards. So they came up with a defense plan 2 decades ago by a guy named Mohammad Jafari. And he said, it's like having 31 trees out there separately apart. You cut one down, the others 30 stand, and they operate independently. Well, now you've got a president like Trump out there. Well, how do we fix this? And how you fix it and how you change it is basically take away their house and their car. Go into places like Kharg Island and Larak Island in the Strait, which are 300 miles apart. Hold them, because Kharg is their economy. Mm-hmm. It's 90% of it, and Larak is their command and control hub of the Strait. That does not mean you invade Iran. You don't put troops on the march to Tehran. It's a limited attack that controls their economy, where you want to be at tomorrow. And you basically tell them, look, when your people are starving out there, and when everybody realizes they don't have jobs out there because you're not bringing any money in, it starts to crack. And the president was right about something. You're starting to see potential of some type of revolutionary group in Iran coming forward. There's a couple of them out there. And I think now you have a group that you could put a provisional government on Kharg Island as well. You now have competition for leadership. These guys, their intent is to fight to the death. They're going to delay, they're going to obfuscate, and they finally run into somebody who's going to push back in Donald J. Trump. Nobody has done that before. So you have to approach them differently. You have to look at the war through their eyes. They, in their weird sense of thinking, thinks they can hold on forever and ever and ever and hold out against American public opinion. And eventually American public opinion starts to turn like the midterms, and they will take control of it. Hmm. So as long as you look at the war through their eyes, you can determine what to do.
We're speaking with General Kellogg here on the Annie Frey Show. Okay, so what does Iran, or the people who haven't decided to full-on surrender, what do they still have left to lose?
Their lives, leadership, running a government. They don't want to give up control of the government. This is something with the theocratic government. This is something that the mullahs finally realized. The religious leaders are in charge. That's what we want to do, to control the population. They don't care at all about their people. You know, if they go back to the Dark Ages, they don't care. You know, you can fly over land forever. You can pulverize it from the air. You can beat it into the ground. But what you need to do eventually is still do what the Roman legions did, is you put your soldiers in the mud. Look, I was in the first Gulf War, and we sat on the border for 38 days as the United States Air Force, as great as they are, bombed the heck out of Iran. Eventually, we crossed the border, and we finally put our boots on their neck, and they said within 100 hours, they were done fighting. This is the same thing.
President Trump said as he was speaking there, I think probably on the way to speak to the Coast Guard at their commencement address, he said, "I'm not in a hurry." And he, brings up there that he knows that the midterms are around the corner. And so he's aware of the timeline that exists. So to me, it feels like the president is saying it's just a matter of time until the resolution that he is waiting for actually arrives. Do you carry that same sentiment that it is just a matter of time, or are there still some forks in the road that the president needs to navigate correctly in order to get there?
Well, I think politics is always a concern, and he's absolutely right. And I wouldn't listen to Congress. There's a bunch of people up there yelling and screaming, hooting and hollering. I remind them, if you read the Constitution, there are three separate but equal pieces of government. One of them is Commander in Chief. That's Article 2, Section 2. The Commander in Chief is the President of the United States. That's it. Those rest of the guys like me, we're just noise, and we just talk about stuff. And he's the one who makes the decision. So he says he doesn't care about it, but I think there is concern there, because there's always concern if you lose the House of Representatives, what's probably going to be the first thing they do? They're going to impeach the president.
Yeah.
Not convict him. That's the Senate's role to hold a trial. But there'll be an impeachment process going on, and you and I both know that. I mean, anybody who doesn't say that is smoking climbing rope. And the fact is, I think the president's concerned about that. He should be about it, and the political people around him are saying the same thing. And he is concerned about a prolonged ground war. I'm not saying a prolonged ground war. What I'm saying is a very targeted, precise use of ground troops. Is it risky? Yep. Are soldiers going to get hurt? Probably. By the way, that's what war does. Yeah. That's the reason soldiers don't like to fight wars, because they understand the consequences. The difference this time is you've got a president who really has their back, and he has proven that more than once. So I think they'll do an exceptionally good job, but it's limited, and I think he should go there. I don't know if it's in his mind to do it, but I'm one of those who, and I will grant you, I'm a hardcore person on it. I admit that. But that's what I think you need to do to actually strangle the Iranian leadership.
Hardcore and consistent, because you've been saying this pretty much the entire time. I get, as a civilian sitting here in smack dab the middle of the country with loved ones who have served, I don't know nothing. I want our military men and women to be safe. I want to win. I don't want to pull out of this conflict because it became unpopular, even if it's still a righteous goal. I have a minivan that takes up a lot of gas, so it does affect me that way. But there is a bigger goal here that the president seems. You just said that the president, that he's the difference in this situation right now. It feels as though he's doing something that he knows will be at least temporarily unpopular because it's the right thing to do. I'm wondering if other administrations have not had the stones to do the right thing, even though it might be politically unpopular at the time.
I think you're absolutely correct. And because it's a little bit risky, and I know that, and I mean risky in the sense that not that you're going to lose, because I don't think that's really possible with our military. But people are going to get hurt. I mean, but they understand that. And I'm not trying to be callous, because I would challenge anybody, don't talk to me about risk. I've been there. I have been on the ground. I understand what combat looks like. I know the risk involved with the soldiers. I commanded the Army's 82nd Airborne Division. I know what those kids, young men and women, are capable of doing. They can do the job. The president, with his advisors around him, just need to relax in the harness, go get the job done. And you're basically strangling them, because you can bomb these guys forever, and I don't think they care at all.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Before we let you go, we're speaking with General Kellogg here, the co-chair of American Security at America First Policy Institute. The Strait of Hormuz, we've seen global leaders come together and say, hey, open this thing up. Can you give us a very intermediate explanation of why it isn't open right now and what is stopping it from being open this afternoon?
Yeah, I think the reason is because that everybody's a little bit afraid about mines in the water, buried mines, and you can do it. I remember when President Reagan did Operation Earnest Oil in the Gulf, and he escorted tankers out of there. We can do the same thing. I mean, let's set up a convoy, then put these guys all in line, put the Avenger-class minesweepers in front of them, and go through and power through there. But it takes courage to do that. And honestly, if you really want to know the truth, I'm thinking a lot of people, men and women out there, are wringing their hands in a negative manner. Oh, it's going to be dangerous. You're damn right it's dangerous. But you can be to the south of Iran. You can go through near the Omani area and get them through there, and just have the minesweepers escort them through there, put them in a giant convoy, not one at a time, get about 30 of them lined up at the same time and run them through there. Go back, get another 30 more, run them through there again. And just basically say, we're going to do that. And the reason they don't do it is just, I think they're afraid there's risk involved. Yeah, there is. You could get hurt on this one. You could lose a tanker. So possible, sure. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that's in the back of their mind, and they don't want to do it. They're waiting. They're waiting for us to quit, the Iranians, and they think that we're going to quit. Not with this president.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And, I think about the resolve that it takes, like knowing a few military members myself, and of course you and all of the people you've served with. These are incredibly resilient and strong, well-trained individuals who are looking for an opportunity to do this for their country and for the safety and security of the future. And sometimes we need to let them do their job, I think. And listening to you explain that makes me feel confident that we just got to choose to.
Yes, exactly right.
All right. Well, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, thank you for the time today. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us on the show.
Thanks, Annie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We'll do it again soon. He is the co-chair of American Security at America First Policy Institute, also the former assistant to the president, presidential envoy for Ukraine. You can follow him on X at General Kellogg. 2 L's, 2 G's.